China had God mode access, which means they could control anything within the system that they had breached. They could change anything. If China had God access to our elections and Russia did not interfere, what does that tell you? Well, put two and two together. China obviously saved us. China is the only reason we had a free and fair election, because they got into our software with their God mode and they kept Russia out. Thank you. Thank you, China. By the way, what I just did is a hypnotist trick called getting inside someone's illusion. The illusion is that we had a fair and free election. Could we retaliate against China if we wanted to? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't China still own too much of our critical industry? Our current situation is that they're holding us by the collar and punching us, and we don't have anything we can do about that. The biggest story is that this company called Solar Winds, who make software. Solar Winds sounds like it's a windmill company or something, but Solar Winds makes software. It's a software that many big companies and governments use. The problem is that Solar Winds has admitted that there was a hack that looks like it gave China what they call God mode access to anything that Solar Winds was touching. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not everything. But basically, China had God mode access, which means they could control anything within the system that they had breached. They could change anything. And one of the companies that the Solar Winds works with is Dominion Software. So as of today, this is what we know. That China had God access to the American voting software, which means they could have done anything. Now, we're still waiting for a real confirmation, because there is reporting that Solar Winds is part of the Dominion Software suite, I guess, meaning that it was part of the system. And if it's true that you could get God access, we still need to know if that really happened. You know, did China actually really literally have God access to our voting system during the election? Because that's the accusation. As of today, that's the accusation. Don't know if it's true. Like everything else, we don't know if it's true. Kind of looks true. And I would like to be the first to thank China, because, you know, it's easy to get distracted by what looks like the bad news, but then you would be burying the big news. There's a much bigger story here, and nobody's reporting it, and that's why you watch me. You watch me to report the stories that are ignored by the major media, and this is the biggest story. China had God access to our voting software. All right, so that's the part we think we know as of today. What we also know, because the news is pretty clear on this, there's no evidence of Russian interference in our election. Is that great or what? No evidence. We have not had one report on CNN of any Russian interference in the election. Now, if China had God access to our elections and Russia did not interfere, what does that tell you? Well, put two and two together. China obviously saved us. China is the only reason we had a free and fair election, because they got into our software with their God mode and they kept Russia out. Thank you. Thank you, China. Because imagine if China did not have full access to our voting software. Russia would get in there. Putin has poisoned people. You can't trust Putin in your software, right? The last person you'd want in the world to be in your voting software would be Russia. So thankfully, China got there first and prevented Russia from throwing the election to Trump. You know they would have. Putin loves himself. He loves some Trump. So the fact that Trump did not win, I think we can conclude that China saved us. They saved us from Russian interference, and they did it just by hacking into the software that got into our, would have given them access, hypothetically, to our voting software. By the way, what I just did is a hypnotist trick called getting inside someone's illusion. The illusion is that we had a fair and free election. So here are the things that we know for sure. And let me start with this. Could we retaliate against China if we wanted to? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't China still own too much of our critical industry? In other words, if we said, hey, we'll throw out all of your diplomats, we'll stop negotiating with you, or whatever, wouldn't China just say, well, I guess you're not going to have any pharmaceuticals? Wouldn't China say, well, so much for your rare earth minerals, which drive your entire tech business? Couldn't China say, well, so much for your national debt, we're not going to buy any of that, we're going to sell that as fast as we can? So have we reached a point where we can't break up with China because they own too much of us, but they can attack us nonstop as long as it's, cyber and dirty tricks and fentanyl and stuff like that, and we'll just let them because we have too many entanglements? Because that's our current situation. Our current situation is that they're holding us by the collar and punching us, and we don't have anything we can do about that. Because if they let go of our collar, let's say their economic connections to us, their pharmaceutical control, or everything else, if they let go of our collar, we fall into the abyss. But if we let them hold our collar and keep punching us, then we get punched to death. So China has created a situation where we have two ways to lose, no way to win. We can't break up with them, and we can't punch them back. Where does that lead? Can't leave them, can't punch them back, and they're punching us as hard as they can every single day. There's only one way that can go, and it's not good. So, priority number one should be to bring our industry home. And it should be number one priority. Because if you don't bring industry home, and I don't know what we can do about debt, I don't understand that well enough, but if we don't bring our critical industry home as a moonshot-like deal, I mean, this should be our next moonshot-like thing. I guess the vaccine was sort of a moonshot. But we should be bringing the industry back like there's nothing else that matters. We should be acting like we're at war, and bringing these industries back is a war powers act kind of thing. We should just put a quarter of our economy on bringing that back, because there's nothing more important. Otherwise, we just get punched to death. We have no defense. Here's my question. Why are there any Chinese diplomats still in this country? Why is there any of these 2,000 people who were on the list that got hacked of Chinese Communist Party members who are in business and industry around the United States? Is there still one of those people who just went to work today? Is there somebody on that CCP list of known Chinese Communist members, Communist Party members, working on American businesses and government industries? Are any of those people, did they just go to work today? Is that how we play it? Oh, well, we're looking into it. So they just go to work? Did that happen? It's just a question. Because if we have not already fired every one of them, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I have a bigger question. Why are there any Chinese diplomats in the United States? After we know these stories to be true, why are there any Chinese diplomats left? They should be gone 48 hours. We should have no Chinese citizens in our colleges or businesses or even in embassies. We should get rid of all of them. And I don't know any way that that's going to happen, because I don't think Trump has enough energy left to do that in his final days in the office, and I don't think Biden can. So, did we already lose to China? I mean, I don't think the game is over, but it's starting to look like we already surrendered. Because if we're not going to fight back, and that's what it looks like, at this point, it looks like we're not even going to push back. We're just going to accept that they controlled our election software. We're just okay with that. Now, apparently in 2018, there was a legislation or an executive order, I'm not sure, about what we would do or how we would retaliate if we found that a foreign entity influenced our elections. And apparently those retaliations would include, freezing all of their businesses in this country and basically putting a stop on the economic everything, the banking, whatever. When does that get... Yes, it's the 2018 executive order, EO 2018. And when does that come into play? Did we just make a law and then we're just gonna ignore it, or an executive order? So there's an executive order on the books that is triggered by exactly the situation we're in. What's happening? Have you heard the president say that we're not going to trigger it or that we are? I'd sort of like to know about that, wouldn't you?